Welcome back. Given my recent video in which I missed several checkmating patterns in actual games, I'm going to try to solve some mate in two puzzles. These are puzzles designed specifically with checkmate in mind, which is a little bit of a cheat because you know that the solution to the puzzle is checkmate rather than an advantageous piece trade or a good defense or some sort of tactic. All of these are going to be checkmates, but still maybe it will help to impress in my mind the checkmating patterns that I need to be looking for in games. Hopefully this will be helpful to you. If not, surely it will be helpful for me, and that's the whole point of this channel. So feel free to stick with me. Let's take a look. All right, I am on the Lichess page, and I'm going to select mate in two puzzles. Hopefully this will be cropped fairly correctly. My opponent has just moved their king out of check, and it looks like I can check them again with the bishop here on a3. I can also check them with the rook on h8. If I don't check them with the bishop, if I check with the rook first, the king's, I think the only legal move is for the king to escape. Then I would have the choice of checking with the bishop on a3 or checking on e1. I'm not sure. Wow. That's a lot of choices. None of those are very forcing. I mean, this leaves the king only one legal move, but then I have multiple choices for check after that. Let's see. Rook to h8 check. Forces the king out here. There's no other choice. But then I have two choices. If I follow up with the rook to e1, they could block with the knight, guarded by their pawn. Then I could check with the bishop, and then, but then the king would move, probably here, is my guess. Then I could take that rook, but then they would take me back. And then, okay, so let's try the bishop first. Bishop to a3 check. The king can't move this way because of my rook on g1, and it can't move this way because of the bishop that's doing the checking over here on a3. So the only option would be to block. Now, they could not block with this rook because rooks don't move that way. They can not block with the knight because knights don't move that way. They cannot block with this bishop because it's a light squared bishop and it can't go to dark squares. So they would have to block with this rook, correct? I think so. This is a mate in two. Okay, so they block with the rook. That's their only legal move, right? After I check with bishop on a3, they have to block with the rook. But then, oh, and then I have mate 8 rook to h8 in the corner. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, that took me a little too long to see. Wow, but I did see it, and I'm going to move on to the next one. If you're not familiar with Lichess puzzles, behind my camera view there is a thumbs up and a thumbs down. I'm not sure what the thumbs down means. I think it maybe says I don't like this puzzle or something's wrong with this puzzle. The thumbs up maybe says you like this puzzle, but it's also the only way to get to the next puzzle. So I'm going to click it, but first I'm going to put my camera back there. And okay. We are still in checkmate in two moves. Okay. Well, I can check with the pawn, but then the king has multiple options like moving forward. Oh, wait, maybe that's it. If I check with the pawn, the king cannot go back because my queen's cutting off those squares. The king cannot come this way because my queen is cutting off that square. So the king only has two choices. It could take back, but if it takes back, then I will deliver checkmate here on g4 with my queen. And I think if the same thing is true that if it moves forward. So I think it has to be that, and that should be checkmate. Okay, I saw that one a little faster. Let's, but again, speed is not my goal, although it should hopefully be one of the pleasant side effects of studying these checkmating patterns. My goal is to get better at checkmate. If that rook were not there, I would have checkmate on b2 because my pawn is protecting that square. But the rook is there. If I check there, the rook would capture. Then I don't have a mate after that. So that's not it. Another check I have in this position is queen captures e4, which the king cannot come here because my rook blocks off these squares. And of course, the queen would be hitting c2 as well. My pawn covers this square. So the only options would be for the king to move or the rook to block. If the rook blocked, I could take it protected by my own rook, but then the king would move. So that's not mate in two. So that's not it. Also, if the king moved immediately, no, if the king moved immediately, I would have a mate there, rook to c1. But the king doesn't have to move, right? Rook can block, so then that would be my second move, and then they can still get out of check. So that would be a mate in 3. So it's not that. What else is there? Aren't those my only 2 checks in this position? No, those are not my only checks in this position. Rook to c1. Wait. Okay, I just saw it. I was gonna say if I played rook to c1, the king would capture, then I could put my queen in the corner. But in that case, the king gets out. But what if I put my queen in the corner first? The king, there's no other option. That's the most forcing move. The king has to take, and then that's mate. Okay, so queen to a1 check, and then rook to c1 mate, because the pawn guards the getaway square. Okay, that one also took a little too long for me to see, but I saw it. I had to work my way through just seeing all the checks. Okay, next puzzle. Now again, we have selected mate in 2 puzzles, so I'm not looking for tactics. I'm only looking at checkmates. And the first move might not necessarily be check, but it has to promise mate on the following move. Okay, here I have multiple checks. The first one that I saw was rook captures f2 check. That leaves the king multiple options. No. The knight guards that square. So not that one. That leaves the king the option to go to h1. That leaves the king the option to go capture my knight on h3. And that's it, because the bishop would be cutting off these squares, the rook, the knight, the rook. But it captures the knight, and then do I have a follow-up? I'm certain it would capture the knight. Oh, but then that would be mate, right? Because my bishop is guarding that square. Okay. Yeah, I had to see that my bishop is protecting right here. The king then can't get out because that square's cut off, and yeah, all these squares are cut off. Okay. Next puzzle. I have gotten 4 in a row, it looks like, and that's taken me 9 minutes, so that means I'm averaging about 2 minutes per puzzle once we subtract the introduction. Okay, this has something to do with the fact that I'm pointing all these pieces here. I believe this is one of the ones where I have to take with the queen first. If I take with the bishop first and the rook captures, then I can go down here, but then the rook just returns to block the check. If I take with the queen first, the rook has to capture. Well, it doesn't have to. The king could move out of the way, but then I would take the rook and that would be mate. But once the rook captures, it's pinned, and then this would be mate. Okay. Yeah, I had a puzzle very similar to that on chess.com recently when I was just doing my random puzzles. But yeah, the temptation is to take with the bishop first because it's so hard to sacrifice the queen. But it has to be the queen sacrifice, otherwise it doesn't work. Okay, next puzzle. All right. Oh. The bishop is guarding that corner square, so I want to check in the corner with the rook. However, if I do that, if I check first on h1 with my rook, the king goes this way, and if I then try to follow with my bishop check, the king gets away. So I think I need to check with the bishop first, right? Bishop to c5 check, because then the king can't escape this way. It also can't escape over here because of my aforementioned rook guarding these, guarding the entire h-file, and this bishop guarding this entire diagonal. And then, of course, the newly moved bishop would be guarding this, so the only legal move would be to block, and I think they have to block with the rook. Okay, so yeah, bishop to c5 check, they have to block with the rook. Pretty sure. And then that's mate, protected by the bishop. Okay. This is good because I definitely have a weak point or a blind spot when it comes to bishops and diagonals. So this is helping me not only with my full board vision to be able to see pieces that are at complete opposite corners from the king, but also just in general what's cut off by these bishops. Next puzzle. Okay, this is looking very bad for me because that bishop's cutting me off there. However, I'm not in check, so I don't have to take back. So, but I have a check here. Where can the king? Oh, then the king has to go there. The king has to go to f8. Oh, but then that's mate. Let's say if the rooks weren't lined up there, mate would be right here on f7 because of the knight. But the rooks are guarding that square, so it can't be that. So it has to be this check. Only one legal move is to f8, and then I think that would be mate down there. On h8, because the knight is guarding the only getaway square. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to try to do 3 more so I get at least 10. Okay. Okay, they've just taken my rook. I'm getting better at seeing pieces that are pinned. That pawn is pinned. So if I check here with my queen capturing on h3, that pawn can't take back. So that's a good candidate move. Now, in that case, king has to move here, and then that should be made. Okay, I did get that. Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, let's try to do 2 more. And if I'm still below a certain arbitrary time limit, then I'll just keep going, maybe. Unless I've missed one by then, I might feel pretty bad about myself. I'm not sure about this one. I know that I have a few checks. The only safe one, completely safe one, is here on h4. Not sure why I drew a pink arrow there. That's my only safe check because it's protected by this g pawn. And that would cut off the king's escape this way, as well as this way, and this way. And it would only leave the king one legal move. And then that would be mate, would it not? Queen to f4? I think queen to f4 would be mate because my queen cuts off that entire, as well as these, and it's protected by my pawn. Okay. I was starting to think about checking with the pawn first or something like that, but this turned out to be best. Next puzzle. And I think this is about to be my 10th one. Okay, we don't want to check in the corner because of the bishop being in the bishop guarding the corner. But we can check on h7, which forces the king to the side. Well, then maybe that's not best. Maybe the corner is best. Because if we check here and the king moves over, then we don't have a follow-up check other than going to the corner, but by then the king gets out. If we go to the corner first, the bishop may take us, but our bishop way back here is protecting that corner, and that should be mate. Okay, I think that was 10, and my clock shows about 16 minutes, so not counting any edits I will make later. I'm going to keep going. The queen is right here. I have to be cognizant of that, and their bishop is guarding that diagonal. Knight is guarding that square. My bishop is cutting off these, so the king can't move anywhere right now. But what checks do I have? I have this check, bishop to e7, but doesn't that just lose to their bishop? I also have queen to g7, but I think they have multiple pieces that could capture there. They captured with the king after I checked on g7. Oh, wait. Long range. I have to have full board vision. My rook can check on d8. At that point, the only legal move would be for the knight to capture, and then I have mate queen to e8. Guarded by my knight. Okay, I think that's 10, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Wow, I'm pretty bad at counting. Okay. 11. Next puzzle. Okay, I'm that bad at counting 1 through 10. Well, 11 is outside of 10, but you know what I mean. If I'm that bad at counting elementary numbers, no wonder I have trouble calculating it. I have a check on the back rank d1 with my rook. That forces the king. Oh no. Well, it wouldn't go there. It would force the king here, and then that would be mate, would it not? They don't have anything that can block this check. Yeah, so it's got to be that, and then this. Okay, that one seemed easier than some of the others. I'm going to quit trying to count the puzzles and just say, next puzzle. Oh no, my queen. That's the Botez gambit there. I think we have a check here. Let's double check, so I don't have to worry about the queen taking my knight, because my rook is also going to be checking at that point. In double checks, as we know, the only legal move is for the king to get out of check. No blocking, no capturing. So the king would be forced to go to f8, because again, my rook would be cutting off these squares, my knight would be cutting off this one, and then I think after the king moved, I think it would be mate when I move my bishop to h6. I don't think they can block that or get out. All right, next puzzle. Okay, again, we have an opportunity for a double check, this time with the bishop, one of two ways. I think bishop to f7 is the better of the two, but I don't know that it matters. Let me think. Yes, it does matter, because if I take the knight, the king gets out of check here. Well, no, it's made either way, right? So then which one of these is better? Because it's double check. Because when I move the bishop to one of those two squares, I will have check on both places. So bishop to f7 check. If the king moves to the corner, then I would deliver mate on g8 with my rook. But if the king moves to the side to f7, then again I would deliver mate with g8 on g8 with my rook. But isn't the same true here? If the king moves to the corner, I have a mate. And if the king goes that way, I do not. Yeah, it would still be mate, would it not?
It's mate either way.
What am I missing? But I'm trying to determine, because in a puzzle, it's very rare. I don't know that I've ever seen where it will accept two moves. So one of those is wrong. Okay, well, that's making me very nervous. But I'm going to take the piece and just hope that's not wrong. That was wrong. Wow, I lost 22 points for that. Okay, so it was that one then, and that's mate. But why didn't the other one work? Is there a way to go back and check? Okay, why doesn't that work? Can I turn on Stockfish now? Oh, because the king can just take the bishop. Okay, well, I was definitely missing something. Okay, next puzzle. All right, here I think this is fairly simple. I check here with the rook. The king has to move over, and then that's mate in the corner. No, it's not, because my queen is pinned. Okay, well, it's a good thing I didn't move the rook then. Wait, check there. The king moves. I check with mate with the rook in the corner because the queen still guards there even though it's pinned. Okay. That's the one really odd thing about chess that a lot of beginners have trouble with, is even when your queen or any piece is pinned to your king, so you can't legally move it, it's still keeping their king from moving into squares. But it is the fact, and if you are a beginner, keep that in mind. Next puzzle. I can check with the bishop. The queen is pinned, so it couldn't capture that bishop. But the king would just move over. Oh, but then I would take the queen and that would be mate. Wait, what if the king captured? What if I check there and the king captures it? I could have a follow-up check, but then it wouldn't be mate. Oh, yes, it would. No. If the king captures it, I still have mate on g7. Okay, wow, I almost talked myself out of that one. Okay, just a couple of more, and I'm still embarrassed that I missed that one, that if I took the knight, the king could just take the bishop. Wow, okay. I am noticing that that pawn is pinned. That might come in handy. I have to be careful because the opponent has a checkmate opportunity right here on f2. So every move I make has to be check. And that's not always the case with these puzzles. But let's take a look. This is one check that I have in this position. Is it the only check? No. There are two checks in this position. There are three okay. There are three checks in this position. And okay, remember when I said that pawn is pinned? So that might come in to be important, to come in handy at some point? Yes, I think it is. And I think that's so because I can check here on g6, right? No, yes, because the pawn can't capture. So the king would have to move. Rook to g6 check. The king has to move. And whichever one of those squares it moves to, I'll have queen to h5, which will be checkmate. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I noticed that pin right at the beginning. Just a few months ago, I think I would have missed that. Okay. And then this next puzzle will be my last one. And if any of you have stuck with me so far, then I sure appreciate it. Hopefully you're also learning something as well as I talk my way through these. I have a couple of checks. Well, two checks in this position. My opponent is trying to queen this pawn, but I have two checks. That one, where can the king go? Because it can't go toward my knight because my pawn cuts off that square, and it can't come down because my king cuts off these squares. So it would have to go here, and my knight would be guarding this pawn. So I think it would be mate to play the c pawn at that point. Or is it the other one? Okay, we have to be careful here. It might matter. Does it matter? Because it mattered in the last puzzle which way I took the bishop. But here, if I play a3, pawn to a3, the king can't go back because the knight guards that. My front c pawn guards that. My knight guards this, and my king guards all these squares, so that would be mate. None of their pieces can capture there. But wouldn't that also be true if I played c3? Because again, my front c pawn guards that square, and my knight guards these two squares, and my king guards those. So either one is mate. Correct? Nothing would be able to capture the c pawn. There's no pieces in place for that, and my king is guarding that square. But the way puzzles are constructed, one of them is usually wrong. Okay, it counted it correct, but I'm going to go back and see if the other one would have been correct too. Okay, apparently both of those would have been mate. It's very rare for a puzzle to accept two different moves, so I wondered if it would have accepted it had I played a3. I really don't know. Well, once again, thank you to any of you who stuck throughout this entire video. I do appreciate all of you watching and supporting and subscribing, liking, and so on. It makes this a little easier knowing that you're out there, knowing that somebody's watching, that it's not really accountability, but it feels like accountability, knowing that there are other chess players out there kind of expecting me to keep showing up. So also being on camera definitely makes me try a little harder to get this right. We'll see you next time.